Okay, so here's how we're going to get started with this activity for watercolor. Eventually, we're going to get into making watercolor landscape paintings. And what I want you to do once you've got all set up with all your materials from the last video is try this exercise here. You can label these as explicitly as you want, the way I have maybe, but we're going to do intermediate colors. And from the color wheel you see here, intermediate colors are those in-between colors, like yellow-green, yellow-orange, red-orange, blue-green. And I want you to have experience with that sort of color mixing rather than just going red, green, yellow. So this is a little bit more advanced color mixing, but nothing too terribly difficult. So let's take a look. So we're going to do a wet and a dry intermediate, and we're going to mix those. And then ET is earth tone. I'll show you that next video. And shading is darkening a color with black. Okay, so let's try this. The first thing we're going to do is wet color. So you don't even need paint yet. I want you to take your half cup of water and get that square fully wetted down on your paper. Now with your sketchbook paper, don't go too wet or it starts to really pill up your paper, which means it starts to deteriorate, and you don't want that. So now we've got that. I have a mixing tray I use like this for a lot of my painting. You can use a paper plate or a dish from the kitchen or whatever, because watercolor cleans up so nicely, a lot nicer than like acrylic paint that I have here. You can also mix right in your tray, okay? And that's what I'll do. So let's do the wet first. And I put this color wheel up here just for reference. So now that I've got the paper wet, I need to get my paint wet. So let's do a yellow green, since that's a nice color. So I want to put my my water in the yellow paint, and I don't want it really thick yellow paint, just watery. Okay, and then I'm going to take that and put it right here. Let's move it a little bit here, and then get some more in there. You don't need a lot for a square this size, and you can work as big as you want, but this is a good size, what I got going there. There. Clean off my brush a little bit, and now we need that green, so water. My water's a little dirty, but it's not going to impact the color. So at some point you may want to change your water, but right now we don't have to. Okay, and then green's the stronger, darker color, so we don't need as much of that. So let's put a little green with our yellow and mix it right here in the tray. There we go. That's a nice yellow-green. Now on the color wheel, it's even lighter than that. So you could choose to clean your brush and add some more yellow. And you can get it close to that, what you see on the color wheel on the screen, but somewhere in the neighborhood's good. And then we're going to put that on that wet paper. So this is wet paint on wet paper. And you know, you don't have to worry too much about being right along the lines there, but you know, it's good practice to have control of that brush. Okay, there you go. Now let's quickly do dry. Intermediate dry. Okay, clean our brush off. It's nice to have that paper towel handy so I can kind of clean off the brush and get excess water off of there, especially for doing dry. Now dry, you do need some water, and you're talking about dry paper, so we start just like that. And then let's do a different intermediate color. I'm going to do yellow. Well, let's not use yellow again. Let's do blue violet. Okay, so I do need color. I do need some water for my color, so I'm going to go blue. Let's move this into the screen here. A little tricky. Blue, and the more I mix, the thicker that paint gets. So I'm going to make a nice dry blue and put it in my mixing tray. And so this is some water. You have to have some water to activate the paint, but then more of it is mixing. Now when you're doing this, don't crunch your bristles. Be gentle. You don't want to bend your bristles. You want to keep your brush in good shape like that. So don't clamp down and ruin your bristles. So I know that this thing's kind of in the way here, but let's see if we can move it over there. Okay, so now we've got blue that we've mixed, and then we're going to add some violet to that. Clean my brush, and violet is right next to the blue. And again, dry. So a little bit of water and a good amount of mixing. And then I'm going to mix that in with my blue and make a dry intermediate blue violet. And you can adjust this as you go. All right, so now I'm going to lay this in dry on dry. The thing with dry is you can get a nice straight line and the paint doesn't bleed. And I can lay that on there like that. Now, if you needed a touch more water, which it looks like I do, to extend the paint, then you can do that. But you still want to get a nice full color. Now, that's not very full. So what I would want to do is add some more blue and violet and mix some more paint up. Okay. And then clean your brush before you go into a new color in your tray so that you don't muddy up that color. I'll show you how to clean that out later, but the more you can keep your colors clean, the better. And I've mixed up some more dry blue violet. Now I can go back in, and that's a nice dark violet. So it's about making adjustments. And so if you feel like, well, it's too watery or not watery enough, you can adjust. Okay. So I've got my little square of mixed blue violet here. I'm just putting it down. So this is just a color study. This is not any finished artwork. We are going to get into some landscape painting eventually, but I want to do this exercise so you get a feel for the brush and how to mix these colors, especially more complex colors, because I don't want us to just settle for the single color. And a little bit of water, just a dot of water to help me finish this square. The dry paint, you can get that nice straight line. And there's not really any bleeding going on. And then we finish it up like that. Okay. So that's intermediate colors. We've got yellow, green, and blue, violet, wet, and dry.